Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are glad you are here, and just by showing up, you are already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I am pleased to break with my normal routine by actually conducting the interview itself. And the reason I'm doing so is my huge admiration and respect for today's guest. He's not only one of the smartest people I know, but he's also one of the most inspiring as well. And I promise you will leave here today not only smarter and more enlightened, but also more inspired than you arrived. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. The second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. And in this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with us and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones. And ask questions of me and my guest. We will do our best to answer those along the way. And also, this is very important. Please make sure that your chat is set to address everyone, not just the host and speakers. I want to thank our program sponsors for without their support, we could not keep doing this for free. Special thanks to MedJet, Turnkey ZRG, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, Tennessee Brew Works, and my favorite industry podcast, Unlimited Supply. A quick note about MedJet, by the way, folks. If you guys travel as extensively as my guest does, that is internationally, you need to check out MedJet because this is the medical transport and security response membership that you're looking for. I'm a member and you should consider it too. So let's get down to business. Today's guest, I welcome my good friend Scott Scovill. Scott's life exemplifies the power of tenacity. An award-winning entrepreneur and creative powerhouse, Scott is the founder of Moo TV, a global leader in video production. Through natural disasters and a global pandemic, Scott built Moo TV into an industry titan producing 1,000 events annually. Today, it is the reigning video company of the year, and at one point having held the honor for 10 consecutive years. A sought-after creative force in the entertainment world, Scott's portfolio includes directing live concerts and producing high-profile projects such as CBS special starring Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood. His technical and artistic excellence has earned him CMA Touring Awards for his work with Garth and Visual Designer of the Year honors for Brad Paisley's World Tours. Beyond his production credits, Scott is a lifelong adventurer who has visited nearly 60 countries. His never too late philosophy saw him learn to play hockey at age 35, eventually landing a spot on an all-star team, and pick up professional photography, resulting in an Alan Jackson album cover. Despite being told early on that he couldn't sing, Scott defied the critics to become a singer-songwriter with multiple albums and regular tours abroad. In his new book called Tenacious, The Art of Relentlessly Pursuing Your Wildest Dreams, Scott distills his remarkable journey from rock bottom to industry leader into a roadmap for others. Part memoir and part motivational guide, Tenacious shares the unfiltered stories behind his rise along insights from extraordinary range of contributors, including Brad Paisley, Alan Jackson, Olympic champion Scott Hamilton, and Peter Frampton, as well as NASA astronauts, elite athletes, CEOs, and a Navy SEAL. More than just a memoir, Tenacious is a playbook for anyone looking to build a life fueled by grit, creativity, and the relentless pursuit of what matters most. It is my honor to welcome my good friend here today. Welcome, Scott. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here. And I can speak to your services. You have helped me in the past, and I greatly appreciate that. And it's always good to see you, my friend.
Well, thank you. Back at you. And what an honor this is, and what a treat. I like to shine a light on people doing really cool things, and you've been at the top of my hit list for a long time. It just so happens that the calendar has aligned for your busy schedule and the very cool things that you've got being released into the wild very soon, which we're going to talk about in a moment. I
Well,
want
I don't know if everyone thinks I'm doing cool things, but I like what I'm doing. And isn't that fun? So let's talk about it.
Well, I want to start with Moo because that's kind of where your story starts.
Yeah.
In doing my research, preparing for today, I was taken back by how tenacious you were when you launched Moo. And I want to hear the origin story. How did you bust into the production industry? Fake it till you make it, shall we say? Tell us that, please.
I absolutely faked it. So I was a wreck as a kid, which is part of why I think, my story is interesting because we've all been a wreck at several points in our lives, right? Or most of us. I graduated last in my class in high school. I flunked out of college. A girl I really cared about was killed in a car accident right after she and I went on a date. I was just a mess. And a tour bus rolled into the restaurant that I was waiting tables at. So that seemed to be where my life was going. I was waiting tables at a Howard Johnson's. Not really my dream. And the tour bus rolled in and had the space shuttle painted on the side. And I thought, whoa, do these guys work for NASA? And so I ran up to the hostess station and said, set those guys in my section. And I was disappointed to watch them walk off the bus. They all were wearing black and they had long hair. And I went, they don't look like they work for NASA. But I was amazed to find that they worked for the band U2. And that was so stunning to me that I went back out to the table after they told me and said, I'm sorry, I don't get it. What do you mean you work for U2? Now, mind you, this is when Joshua Tree had blown up. U2 was the biggest thing in the world. And in this dark time, music was a place where I hid. And that album was everything to me.
Amen.
And music's such a storyline in my life, right? But I said, I don't understand. I would have thought you had to be Bono's cousin or something. And the one guy at the table laughs and goes, well, Scott, 7 of us that are here are the very best at what we do. We put on the lights and the sound and the show. And he puts his arm around the guy next to him and he goes, and this is AJ. He's Bono's cousin. And everybody cracks up. AJ and I are friends to this day. And I was blown away. And 3 months of me being really depressed came out all at once. And apparently I was amusing enough that they invited me to a show. And then another show. And at that second show, the lights went out and the crowd went wild. And I stood there in the dark and had a paradigm shift. I went, oh my God, this is what you're going to do with your life. You love music, you love travel, you love technology. Like, wow.
There's a job?
There's a job. But the reason I had flunked out of high school, out of college, and almost didn't graduate high school was that I had such a fear of failure that I was afraid to try. And I had just recently been diagnosed with this. And so finding out that finding a dream was exciting, but a moment later my heart sank when I realized I was going to have to start trying. So here's the fun part. I quit my 3 jobs. I did have 2 other crappy jobs. And I sold my Super Sport Camaro and I started sneaking into U2 shows and working for free. I told them I was going to do this. They told me I would never get past security. For 5 weeks, I got past security. I lived in my car. I ate crap food. I almost fell asleep driving. I can't tell you how many times, because while they were all sleeping on the bus, I was driving to the next city, all living in a Subaru Brat. But I learned a lot about the industry. I learned it was indeed what I wanted to do. I managed to not get arrested. I was almost arrested 3 times. But in the end, I knew I had found my dream job. It didn't work out. I thought maybe they would hire me. Turns out you're a good laugh, but you don't get hired. But they helped me. I impressed on them enough that they helped me and they gave me some great advice. And that's really how I got in the industry. By, you say faking it till you make it. I had a fake laminate and lived off it for 5 weeks. I faked it on my path to making it for sure.
That's beautiful. Now, did you make this laminate yourself or did they hand you one?
No, I made it. So I noticed that they all had laminates that had things like the truck pack or the radio channels on them. So I made myself a laminate that had the radio pack, radios, and fake whatever, just crap. And if security stopped me, but usually they didn't, because they would just see a laminate and I would look like I didn't want to be there and I just walk past them. But if they'd stop me, I'd be like, oh my God, where's my laminate? And I would freak out, like totally ignoring them. Like they weren't a big deal to me, because the big deal was I was in trouble because I lost my laminate. And I would turn around, feign to run back to the bus to find my laminate. And then I would sneak in a different door.
Love that. There's a lot of lessons in life tucked into that chapter right there. Look like you belong, act like you belong.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. What tour was that of U2's? Do you
It
remember?
was Joshua Tree. They had just exploded. They were the biggest band in the world. And I'm so glad it was them, because they're such inspiring people. And I've always admired Bono, and his command of the crowd and all that made live entertainment magic to me. And I am so grateful for him and just who he was. He inspired me.
So that's how you sort of got bitten by the bug, shall we say? But how did that translate into launching your own company?
Yeah, I love the industry, but I love learning. So I wanted to do everything. And so I dipped my toe in every water. And video was new when I joined on and started doing video. Joshua Tree was like the second tour to have it. Like really, Journey had it and they started it and founded the company Nocturne for it. And then U2 had a video system when Journey didn't have it. I think it was down to that. So I thought, well, I want to do that, because why join a ladder with 37 rungs on rung one? If I become a video guy, I'll be on the bottom rung of a 2-rung ladder. That's not a far way up. So I got into video and loved it. And I think really what led to MooTV was I saw that people weren't using screens in the way that I felt like they should be. At the time, I was Alan Jackson's video director. I'm 4 or 5 years into my career, and had toured with the Stones and Bowie and all sorts of amazing artists. Moved over to country, but got to be the director to take the smaller tour. And people were hiring their video director or their music video or their brother-in-law that went to film school to do all their content on screen. And those people, while very talented, are conditioned to tell a story inside a rectangle. And that doesn't always work. And what people totally get now, they didn't get then, is that sometimes the screens just want to be a metaphor. They might just want to be flames or clouds or time lapse or any of those overused things we saw a lot of in the beginning, or colors or words. And so I went to my boss and said, I think there's something missing here. And if I was able to provide that, I think we would get more clients. Do I have your permission to moonlight and create content? And he was a really wise man and like a father to me. And he said no. He would like to be my 50-50 partner in it. It wouldn't be moonlighting, because he felt like I was creating an industry. And I do think that MooTV was the first ever content creation company. And every time I speak, I say, someone's going to reach out and say, no, I was first. But there were people doing it, but it wasn't their focus. And so to me, MooTV was the first at that. And that's what started us down the path.
So two quick questions to that. Who is your mentor? Who is your business partner?
So
What's his name?
Lee Griffin, he was killed in a carjacking, which is how MooTV ended up in the hardware business. But he owned Performance AV. He was one of the 3 owners with Peter Daniel and Greg Gerner. Peter's still a friend and is well represented in the book. Greg passed away also. Lee was killed in a carjacking about 10 years after we started doing this. So at the time, I was running the Nashville office of MooTV, and I was running our Performance Video, and I was running MooTV, the creative division that I co-owned. And when he died, one of the employees came to me and said, hey, I think you should start a company like his. And I think everybody would come on board, and I think it would help keep some part of Lee alive. And Lee was like a mentor, a best friend, and a father all wrapped up in one to me. Just an incredible, awesome human who taught me so much about business and life. And when he said that I would keep some part of Lee alive, that made the difference for me. I never wanted to own a hardware company. I call myself an accidental entrepreneur because I never would have dreamed of doing this. And I honestly started Moo TV as it is today as a hardware company doing all the screens and cameras to keep Some Part of Lee alive.
But it's hardware and it's services.
It's
the
all of
creative.
it. Yeah. So we provide, so now Moo Creative, I divided them up again. Moo Creative provides the creative, and Moo TV provides the screens, cameras, all that stuff, and the technicians that operate it.
You got to tell me, where did the name Moo come from?
It's a silly story. So my dream was to get on the U2 tour. That was my dream. And I felt like I was really on my path. I did the Rolling Stones Steel Wheels. I did David Bowie's Sound Vision. I mean, I was doing big projects. Then I end up on the Alan Jackson tour, it just turned out amazing. And I'm so grateful and so glad I've worked with him. But, my first show with Alan was only 1/3 sold. And I didn't like country music. And I was like, what the hell is happening to my career? But Lee wanted me there, so I went. While I was out on that tour, U2 was putting together the Zoo TV tour, and they had found they were using a fairly new technology, video projection cubes. And I had a reputation for being the guy because I had taken it on a tour that there was a guy that just wasn't doing it very well on Paula Abdul, and they flew me in to save the day. And so someone from U2 called. I believe he was from Nocturne. I'm not even sure, Nocturne or U2. But he called and he was in a position to offer me a job. He's like, hey, we hear you're the guy. We want you to come do the Zoo TV tour. Now, here I am on a country tour. I don't like country music. It's not my thing. And my absolute dream job calls, we want you to be on Zoo TV. And I'm like, holy cats, this is amazing. But do you already have a video company? And they said, yeah, Nocturne's doing it. And I said, well, I have to say no. It's my dream, but the reason I'm desirable to you is people have believed in me, and they helped me build a career. So I could never leave performance to go do this. And they called back. I say called. I had a beeper. They beeped me, and they said, no, seriously, name your price. We're really, this is a video-centric, groundbreaking tour, and we really need you, we think. And I'm like, oh, God. I felt myself weakening, and so I switched from defense to offense, and I told the gentleman, forgive me if you're out there, I said, I've told you I can't do this for ethical reasons, and yet you keep asking, so I'm afraid maybe you don't understand ethics. And so I could never work for you, and you should never call me again. I hung up, and I went to the hotel bar and started day drinking, which I do not do. And the LD walked past me at the Holiday Inn Holidome bar by the pool and stopped and looked at me and said, what are you doing? I said, I just had a weird day. And he said, what's going on? I said, I don't want to talk about it. And he's like, well, tell me about it anyway. And I did. And he didn't understand why I was the least bit upset that I had just told my dream no, because he said, why would you worry about not doing the biggest video tour in rock history? You're currently doing the biggest video tour in country history, which was actually true, technically, I think, although maybe Reba was bigger. Anyway, we were big. And he said, why do you want Zoo TV when you've got Moo TV? I guess the idea being that the country version would have a cow in it. So Jimbo, I'm like, Jimbo, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I was hard on him. He sort of shuffled off. And then I was like, well, now I'm just being a jerk. So I grabbed 2 more to-go beers and went to my room. And so I wouldn't be mean to anybody else. And 2 more to-go beers, went to my room, sat there, and I had just bought a director's chair cover, and because mine had ripped, and it was white. And God, when I do that gesture, it turns on the tracking. So here we go. Now we're tracking me. It was white, and I was bummed that all they had was white because it was going to get dirty. But I grabbed a Sharpie and wrote Moo TV in big black letters on it and declared myself the Moo TV tour, and that name just caught on. And everyone kept calling us Moo. Later that year, Performance won Video Company of the Year, and Lee even had a second plaque made up to give to me, saying like, hey, part of why we won is you won over Nashville, which is a big audience. Like your Moo TV work was great. So Moo TV became a thing. So when Lee and I started that creative company, he goes, well, let's do this. And he goes, what's the name? And I said, we already have a name, Moo TV. And he goes, it's dumb. And I said, it is dumb, but no one ever forgets it. And we agreed that that was true. And so,
Great
boom,
brand.
we were Moo TV.
Now, what year was this?
Oh, 1993? 1993.
So you've been at it, 30 plus years.
Yeah, which is weird because I'm only 39 years old.
Scott, that's incredible. And what an elegantly simple origin story. And once again, what I said a few minutes ago, the tenaciousness shown in you even back then. How old were you then?
I was, so when I started, I was 19, chasing U2 around and working for free. And I was 23 when I started Moo TV, maybe? Yeah, somewhere right around there, maybe 24. Yeah.
You had a lot of guts. Good for you.
Yeah, you just see what's supposed to be done and you do it, right? You're like, oh, somebody should be doing this. I'll do it.
So when did you move to Nashville?
92, I started partly living here when we put me on the Alan Jackson tour. And then within a year or so, I just got tired of the commute back and forth and got a place in Nashville.
So before we leave Moo, I want to just touch on a couple of highlights. What, in your estimation, you've been doing it 35 years, you've won loads of awards, Polestar Video Company of the Year, a dozen times. What stands out? What are the trophies in your mind that mean the most to you? If somebody were to ask you in an elevator.
Yeah. One just popped right into my head, and I think it's really on point with who we are and why I like us and why I hope other people like us. After the pandemic, I heard a lot of my friends in the business say we can't find people. We don't have anybody to work. And we didn't lose anybody. So I think one of our trophies is just how we try to handle our people. And not only did we not lose people, we gained a few. So I think we lost 2 people out of the pandemic. One had moved into real estate, and the other one, I forget what he did, but that's nothing. And the one that moved into real estate came back, and he's one of our project managers. He lasted in real estate like a year and said, let's have more fun in the music business. And I'm like, come on back. And so I think that's it, just that how we take care of our people. So awards are cool. I always say awards are really dumb until you win them, and then they're very important. So we've had a few really important awards and a bunch of dumb ones. But I think the most important thing is just how we've handled our people, and I'm proud of who we are.
Is there a project that sticks out, like among all others?
I don't think you can do that because I think you'd be naming one client over the others. So if you want to call Surviving the Flood a project, we'll make that one the project, or the pandemic, either of those.
Let's talk about the flood, because the flood hit a lot of companies in Nashville hard. It crushed you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Moo TV and Moo Creative. For those of you who don't remember, the Nashville flood was of epic proportions. They told us the water was going to raise like another 14 inches over the next, 12 hours. And it raised so many feet in that time period that you couldn't get to your gear. And so the roads to our office went underwater, and then we had to sit helplessly, while our warehouse flooded. We had like $5 million in inventory. We were a much smaller company back then, and we lost like $3.5 million of it. Like it just, we only had $1 million in flood insurance. Like we shouldn't have survived. And we did. We were doing payroll by like borrowing money at times, but we made it through. And I'm really proud of how that steeled the team. I think we took amazing care of our clients through that. And I think that there were 2 or 3 employees that went like, wow, this is not going to work. See you later. And we were like, okay, but most of our employees were like, what can I do? Give me a shovel. Where do I start? And how do we, and I mean shovel, because we were right by the river. So there was inches of thick mud through our whole warehouse because the current had pushed the sediment under the doors, and there were feet of water in our warehouse. It was awful.
You're over there on Production Row, Cowan.
Yeah.
Yep. Gosh. Well, even Tenacious was part of that story there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I sense a theme here, and that is dare me to do something and then hold my beer and get out of my way while I do it. Let's talk about learning to do some other things that you never thought you could or should do. Number one, music,
Yeah. Yeah.
sing, tour, record.
You
Wait
know,
a minute. You can't do that.
yeah. I think a little backstory. I've told this before, so I'll tell it really briefly. But I discovered Tim Ferriss and I became acquaintances, and I hung out with him a little bit at some shows. He wrote The 4 Hour Work Week, and in that book, he did some amazing things. And I asked him one night at about 4 a.m., so I probably had a beer or 12, if he really did all the crazy things in his book. And he said that he did, but that he knew he was running an experiment and that he was going to write a book about it. And I was like, okay, that's a really good answer. The next morning, I sat straight up in bed and went, holy cats. My friend Tim had a life worth writing about because he was writing a book. And I told myself, I'll never write a book. That turned out to not be true. But I told myself, I'll never write a book, but I'm going to start living my life like I'm writing one. And I'm going to ask myself, what would make the next chapter more interesting? And if it won't totally blow up my life, I'm going to do it. And I kept to that promise that I made almost 20 years ago now. And so, for example, I was singing at a party in Norway at 4 a.m. and they turned the radio off and said, keep singing. And I sort of a cappella finished this Johnny Cash song. And there was a band there, and they said, yeah, you're coming on stage with us tomorrow. And I said, no, I'm not. No, when I was a kid, I was told I couldn't sing, and I believed it. In school, I was told I couldn't sing. And it was the 80s. Everyone was singing in their head voices. I'm a baritone. And as much as I've loved music, I've never really understood it, making it. And so I just assumed my whole life I couldn't sing because I couldn't hit the notes that Steve Perry was hitting, right? Or whoever. And and so they dragged me up on stage the next night. I was mortified. I sang Johnny Cash Hurt. I walked off stage. And the barmaid, I was trying to get a drink from her, and she just stared at me, and she said, I have goosebumps. And I'm like, what? The band gets off stage, and they're like, join our band. And I'm like, join a band in Norway? No. Well, I started thinking it would make the next chapter more interesting. And I'm like, how does this even work? And so 2 drinks later, see a theme? I don't drink anymore, but I used to be quite good at it. 2 drinks later, they were like, seriously, you need to join our band. And I went, okay. And everybody cheered, and I started flying over to Norway to be a guest vocalist in a band called Spinning Wheels. Great guys. And I found I loved it. And if you love something, you might as well do more of it. And it was definitely making the next chapter more interesting. So I worked really hard at getting better with vocal coaches and studied. And that has evolved to from being horrified and at times going up and missing the notes and just forgetting the words and all that, to by 2024, I was Brad Paisley's, one of his opening acts on his European tour, singing in front of 10,000 people, just comfortable on stage and looking around and having the time of my life, knowing the words and singing them and hitting notes and just, I had a tour bus in Europe with my name down the side of it, and I'm on the road with Brad Paisley as an artist. Scary because I was so afraid the music industry would judge me. I'm certainly not trying to have a career. I'm just trying to have fun. And I was so nervous about it, but it turns out everybody got it. Everyone I talked to, I was like sort of apologetically going, well, I'm kind of in a band. And they're like, I used to be in a band. Oh my God, I wish I still was. And they should do that because it's so much fun.
So in my research for this, I learned though that you didn't tell anybody in Nashville that this was going on. You were living like a dual life. There's
Yeah.
Norway Scott and Nashville Scott. Tell me how that bridge was even
Yeah.
built.
Yeah, so we started getting popular and doing better. Spinning Wheels is a great band, and we were doing pretty good. And the biggest festival in Norway, Country Music Festival, asked us to play the big stage. So the band calls and goes, "Hey, can you make this date?" They want us on the big stage, not the little stage that we always play at. And I'm like, "Yeah, hell, that's exciting." And they were going, I was like, "Yeah." 2 weeks later, they announced the headliner, which is always the biggest band in Norway. It's the biggest festival in Norway. Whoever's the most successful that year, that's who it is. But it's always a Norwegian band. It was Brad Paisley.
Hmm.
And I suddenly realized that I'm going to be Brad Paisley's opening act. He's one of my best friends and has no idea that I sing. So that was a fun conversation. I'm sitting with Brad and I'm like, "So, Norway?" And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, I'm going. You got to come with me." "How do you know about that already?" "Yeah, we confirmed that. Definitely come with me. I've never been to Europe without you. Come with me. It'll be fun." And I'm like, "I'll be there. I am your opening act." And he goes, "Uh-huh." And he goes back to working on his iPad. And then he looks up and he goes, "Why is that funny?" I go, "It's not funny. It's not a joke. I'm your opening act." And he was stunned. He thought it was nuts. He didn't believe me. But when it finally settled in, he's been incredibly supportive and just a great friend watching me have fun with all this.
That's incredible. And what year was this?
Who, 2017? I might be off by years on that one. I hadn't thought about what year it was, but yeah,
And
somewhere in there. It's been a while ago. It hasn't been 10 years yet, but it's been a while.
and are you performing originals and covers?
Yeah, yeah. I love songwriting. I don't do it that much, but when I do, it means something to me. Uh, I love songwriting. I love doing originals. Luke Wooten produces me at Station West, who's a dear friend. Brent Mason is my band leader half the time. Like I get this dream, Nashville dream type band put together thanks to Luke and I did a Christmas album. I started with Christmas because I was so afraid people would be judging me that I thought, well, no, everybody loves Christmas. And I was listening to all my favorite Christmas songs. And I'm like, they all have orchestra on them. I should do that. And I went to Prague and put the City of Prague Philharmonic on every song. And it was so incredible. One of my favorite moments in my life is I wrote a song for my mom called Mom at Christmas. It's super sweet, and she is my hero. And we're going through it. We've done it 3 times, and then the woman next to me, who's sort of the interpreter coordinator, goes, "Do you want to go in, sit in the middle of the orchestra while we do one more pass?" I'm like, "Yes." So I'm sitting in the middle of an orchestra who's playing a piece that I wrote that's about my mom, and I just started blubbing in the middle of the orchestra. It was just, there's been some serious magic that's come from my musical hobby.
That's beautiful. Well, let's now move to the present, and that is you're publishing a book.
I am.
I want to hear all about it.
Ugh, good. I want everyone to hear all about it. I spent a lot of years doing it because I did it in my free time. And I think that I was approached, I liked public speaking and was doing some public speaking, wanted to get better. And so my entrepreneur friend, Cameron Harold, who's one of my guests in the book, I asked him to mentor me on speaking. And right away he said, "You should be writing books." And he had a publisher call me. And that's what started the ball rolling. And they said, "Come up with some ideas." And I came up with a few ideas, but at the end of the day, I felt like tenacity was the difference maker in my life. Being tenacious is why I am proud of myself instead of ashamed of myself. I have seen both ends of the spectrum. And so I wrote a book about why that's a difference maker. I know that it's incredibly simple. It's in concept. It just means keep trying no matter how much you fail. But I also know that it's incredibly hard in execution, and that's why we aren't all leading our absolute best dream lives. And so I thought some inspiration along those lines would probably be a book worth reading. I present myself as certainly not the most tenacious person in the world. I'm far too dysfunctional for that to be even close. But what I might be is the most improved, because that kid working at Howard Johnson's, flunking out of college, was failing. And he was realizing that his life was going to be less, and he was ashamed. And thank God you two pulled in that day with their road crew, because I found inspiration and I found a reason to start trying. And I developed tenacity chasing that dream. And I find it's like a muscle. Once you start working it, it just gets easier. Failing gets easier. All of it just gets easier. And so, yes, I made it to the dream. I now have a career that I'm really proud of, and I work with bands like you two. I have worked with them a few times since on the Grammys and things. It's been really fun. They actually remember me every time, which is really fun. But more importantly, that tenacity that I built up, that just mindset, has made a difference in every area of my life, whether it's my adventures in hockey or my music or writing a book. I mean, what a scary thing to do, write a book. But I feel like I've lived a really interesting life because I have leaned into being tenacious. And I thought that was a story worth sharing. Furthermore, my guests in the book are all these incredibly talented people. They all have an eidetic memory or pitch perfect hearing or natural athletic ability or all these great gifts. But if you ask any of them why they made it, they will all tell you it's because they didn't give up. They won't cite their talents. In fact, they'll tell you that somebody along the way was better than they were, but they gave up, and that's why they've fallen to anonymity. And so what the book shares is maybe some inspiration for you to be the hero of your story and not the guy that gave up and fell to anonymity. We're all doing that in some way, but couldn't we do that in more ways? And that's what I think the message of the book is.
Amen to that. So talk about some of these guests. How many are in there, and who are they? And
17. I've tried to pick a wide variety of people that inspire me. And there are 17 just incredible guests who took time out of their lives because they believed in the power of tenacity too. If you tell someone I want you to be in my cookbook and they don't like cooking, they're going to be like, I'm not a cook. When you talk to all these famous people and say, I'm writing a book about being tenacious and how that's the difference maker, almost all of them were like, oh, yeah. And so it's great. Astronauts, rock stars, Hall of Fame rock stars, multiple. Hall of Fame country stars, multiple. Astronauts, entrepreneurs, TV personalities, just really a Navy SEAL. Some really inspiring people.
so let's talk about a couple of those. Astronauts.
Yes.
I don't know any astronauts. I know a lot of people, but I've never met a real life astronaut.
I know a few, and that's what I wanted to be, right? And as a kid, I found out I had asthma and was just crushed. And that was like, well, that's it. You can't be an astronaut and have asthma. But as a kid, my earliest dreams were of space. And I'm the right age where the space age was coming around and Star Wars had just come out. And so space-centric dreams were normal. And so I've always admired them. And so I got Katie Coleman. I wanted a lady astronaut for sure. And Thomas Marshburn to be in the book. Katie lived on the space station for 6 months. Thomas Marshburn shares a moment in the book that's just nuts to me. Can I share it here?
Sure, please. I'm going to share something in a moment related to this, too.
Okay. Well, Thomas has spacewalked multiple times, which is stunning to me, to be, strapped to a vehicle going, thousands of miles per hour, 350 miles above the Earth. But he said, I asked him, tell me something that your tenacity got you that you didn't expect. There's a little part on the spoils of tenacity, how you're gunning for one goal, but other areas of your life are better because you didn't give up. And he said, yeah, I got one of those. In spacewalking is really dangerous, and it's a really hectic affair. They keep you really busy, and you're triple checking everything you do, and your mind is just racing. And he said, so you're out there for 4 or 5 hours just racing. Your brain is just going. But it's dangerous to move because you can get hung up. You're so awkward. You're like a turtle in a shell. It's not very mobile. And you got this cord, and you can get hung up and get in trouble. And you don't want to be the first astronaut that dies spacewalking because no one's done that yet. And he said, so your mind is racing, you're doing all these things. One of the ways they make it safer is they have the robotic arm. And it's so dangerous to move out there that it's actually safer for them to attach you to the robotic arm and swing you to where you're going next. And the robotic arm's 62 feet long, so you can move 120 feet completely safe once you get on it. And so he's on the robotic arm hours and it's pitch black. It goes from unbelievable night to day, pitch black to incredibly bright about every, 18 minutes or something. It's pitch black. He's strapped to this arm. His brain is running through everything he has to do. And he's slowly doing what they call the windshield wiper maneuver as they're relocating him. And he leans back and he realizes he's done everything and he's thought about all he needs to think about. And for a moment, he just lets himself be Tom in space. I tear up thinking about this. And he describes in the book looking up and looking out into the blackness. His eyes he didn't see stars because his eyes were still adjusted for the light, but it was pitch black, and he felt the size and scale of the universe. It didn't look like a black wall. He felt like he was seeing infinity. And he's floating in his spacesuit. And he just said, I've never felt so untethered from anything, so singularly just free. And I stare into this abyss, and it's palpable, it's indescribable, but I can sense that I am looking into the universe as the tiniest thing I can imagine. And he said, I quoted Nietzsche. There's a Nietzsche quote that says, I looked into the abyss, and the abyss looked into me. And he said, that's all I could think of was that I could feel how small I was. I could feel the whole universe. And as scary as this might sound to some people, for him it was absolutely beautiful. And he said, I was forever changed by that moment in my life.
I bet. Wow.
And that's just cool, right? Like, who wouldn't want to? Man, thanks, Tom, for sharing that story. Thanks for being awesome and inspiring.
Well, that's about the third time I've gotten chills during this session, so thank you. I'm going to show you something that I'm curious to know the origin story of this as it relates to that story.
Yeah, I'm in zero-G training.
Yeah, tell me about this.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be an astronaut. It turns out you can pay money and they will teach you how to maneuver in zero-G and be in zero-G and just experience it. It's called the Zero-G Corporation, I believe. And you get in an airplane that's padded, that's padding on the walls with very few windows, you can see. And that airplane flies up very high and then dives down at a speed that is equal to your rate of gravity acceleration. So this 727 is nosediving down, and you're inside it floating. So you experience weightlessness, which is an amazing feeling. I'm sitting here and I can absolutely feel my butt planted in this chair because gravity's got me. I feel my feet pushed up against the bottom of my shoes, right? Even if I jump off a cliff into the water, immediately the wind is whipping past my ears. Gravity's got us. It's had us its whole life. And it had me there technically, but I could no longer sense it. So I've experienced what it's like to be weightless, and I got to kind of be an astronaut for a moment. And the plane does that, it does it for an hour. It just dolphins. So you go from being really light to really heavy. They yell feet, and you're supposed to try and get feet down, which is impossible if you're just floating. And all of us crash to the ground, giggling, and then we're just slammed against the ground because the airplane's pulling up so it doesn't smash into the earth. to do it again. And this is not a little airplane. This is a full-size jet like I think Southwest pretty much just flies 727s. Oh, no, it might be an Airbus 300. It's a big jet, and it is nosediving. So, incredible experience.
So pick one more story from the book, somebody who sticks out as tenacious.
Yeah, you know what? Let's go with Scott Hamilton because the Olympics are so hot right now, and he's just such a incredible character. He's one of the kindest, and just he's a light to everyone around him. And you'd think that Scott would talk about winning the Olympics, and he does. But the biggest character in Scott's section in the book, which made my right hand Brandy cry 3 times when she read it, it's powerful, is cancer. Scott's been fighting cancer a lot of his life, brain cancer. And, you know, there's the moment where he tells his wife that he has cancer that's just gut-wrenching. There's these moments. He loses his mom to cancer. But what's amazing is, and I didn't know this, even though I've known Scott for years, he found out that he was born with a tumor that stunted his growth. And that he spent most of his young life, his first few years that he remembers, in and out of hospitals where they were trying to figure out what was wrong with him. And because of that stunted growth, kids picked on him. And kids found out he was adopted and they picked on him. And Scott's early life had a lot of really tough stuff in it. So when he discovered way later in life that a tumor had stunted his growth, that was a revelation for him, in that if Scott's growth wasn't stunted, would he have had the physical form he needed to win an Olympic gold? No. More importantly, would he be tough enough to get through all of it? And so he saw cancer as something that's really shaped the magic in his life. But he didn't make that discovery till late in his life, and I thought that was beautiful. And so his story is just incredible. And there's so many good ones in there. Peter Frampton's is just great. And, hard to choose. But let's go with Scott because of the Olympics. Amazing, inspiring guy. Been fighting cancer. He still has it right now. He's had it regularly for years. Yeah.
So a moment ago, I put the link to buy the book here in the chat. When does it actually come out? When can people actually get it in their hands?
You can get it in your hands April 7th. Please pre-order. We are gunning for the bestseller lists, right? And to do that, you want to have your first week's sales. Everything that pre-orders goes towards those first week sales. So please don't wait and set yourself a reminder, like pre-order it, because if you order it on the 7th, it won't get there on the 7th, right? If you pre-order it now, it will arrive on the 7th. So pretty please, anywhere you go, just search my name and Tenacious, and it will pop right up. So it's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Books A Million and Walmart and everywhere.
I'm going to need an autographed copy at some point.
You got it. I will everybody who knows me, I will sign your copies, but don't wait for a book signing for that. Buy this, and then I'll make an announcement. I'll be at a few places and just say, like, hey, anybody who wants to bring a book by, I'm here at this coffee shop for the whole day, and I'll happily sign your book and talk to you.
Love it. I love it. We've got just a few minutes left. What do you do next? In other words, you've just come out with a book. You've got a music career. You're running a killer company. You've got a love of your life.
I do.
What's next?
Well, I bought this beautiful home, and Katie and I are making it a home. I'm not sure what's next. I should say I do have an album written that's all originals. The last album I did was Johnny Cash covers because so many people in Scandinavia want me to play that. I sound like Johnny, apparently. This one's really personal. There are the struggles that you read about in the book that I'm not willing to talk about until the book comes out. There are some tough things in the book. There's songs written about those. Yeah. I almost die at one point. There's some interesting stuff in there. And so I'm keen to have that album come out, but that'll probably be late in the year because we got to get this book going. This is everything to me. 7 years of my life. So pretty please pre-order it. And yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it.
When do you perform again?
Nothing on the schedule because of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to focus on the book. So I'll do it again, but yeah.
So in the final couple minutes, I want to do a quick speed round.
Yeah.
What was the first concert you ever went to?
I'd rather say first album. It was Peter Frampton Comes Alive, and I've
Yep.
had the honor of working with him. First
That was
concert
my
was
next.
Rush. Yeah, it was Rush. No, it was Billy Idol Rebel Yell tour. I was right in front of the subwoofers, 4 rows back. It was awesome.
Where were you and who were you with?
Saratoga Performing Arts Center. I don't remember who I went with. So sorry. I don't remember who I went with, but I remember being really impressed. And Missing Persons, Dale Bozio joined him on keyboards. And I was like, that's Dale Bozio from Missing Persons. And people are like, no, it isn't. And then about halfway in, he announced, does anyone notice that Dale Bozio's on keyboards? That was cool.
And was Frampton Comes Alive the first record you ever bought with your own money?
No, my Aunt Barb gave it to me. Thank you, Aunt
Yep.
Barb. I
What
really
was the first
appreciate it.
record you ever bought with your own money?
Probably the Cars. Probably.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I love that album. And I actually sat next to a member of the Cars. God, what was his name? On an airplane flight. We had the best talk. And
Rick Ocasek.
yeah, no, it wasn't Rick. And Benjamin Orr had just passed away, and we had the best talk for hours. We were on a cross country flight, and in the jetway, he said, "It was really nice talking to you." And I said, "Yeah, you too. I'm really sorry about Benjamin." And he goes, "Oh my God, you know who I am." I said, "Of course I know who you are. I'm a massive fan, and thank you for the music."
Good on you. Got a couple of questions in the chat here. Is there going to be a book signing in Memphis? My friend Norwood Creech wants to know.
You know, I don't know. Are you going to get up here at all, Norwood? I have a
Norwood can
PR
help make
team.
that happen.
Yeah, make it happen. Threaten me with a good time, Norwood. Reach out and tell me you got one set up, and I'll come do it. And I do have a great PR team, 777's doing my PR, and they are organizing all that and deciding what my best opportunities are. But any opportunity to hang out with people and help them on their path, I have found tends to help me on my path too. I learn as much as I put out. And so I'd be happy to do that. That sounds like fun, and we'll make it happen if you can organize something, Norwood.
And Jack Miller's asking, is there an audio book planned for it?
So audiobooks actually hurt your sales if you're gunning for a bestseller. So I think eventually, but please don't wait for it. Pretty please buy this version so that I can try and crack those lists. And the reason that's important to me is if you crack that list, you get longevity. Once you crack a bestseller list, not just the Amazon list, right? Like USA Today, New York Times lists. If you can crack those, you get some longevity. And I want to help as many people as I can. Selfishly, I want to be seen, right, and heard. Not worried about the money at all, but I would like to be seen and heard. But generously, I want to help people. So let's see if we can crack that bestseller list. So eventually, but it is a long ways off because it would hurt sales.
And are you going to actually do a book tour, or are you just going to have a spot here in Nashville?
I
And
would love to. I own a tour bus, right? But I'm just going to do some signings. They said that's just not really a thing since the pandemic. All the little bookstores dried up and died. There's a few out there, but I was really disappointed to find that's not really a thing. So I don't think there'll be a book tour. But again, if you want to threaten me with a time to come and do something like that, I will do it.
Jillian Etherton is asking this question. Jillian, I don't know where you live, but maybe you could make one happen in your hometown.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, we are out of time. First, just let me again say how much I appreciate you and our friendship. Um,
Likewise.
when I heard about the book, I was like, oh, I got to get him on here. And so it is an honor to have you here. And again, I never do this myself. In other words, I like being side stage. So you made it easy for me to want to be on stage with you today.
I really appreciate it, buddy. I really do. It's always good to see you.
Thank you. Well, I'm
And
excited
thanks for
about
listening, everybody who listened, and would love for you to buy the book if you can. But thanks for your time today. Your time
I'm
is
buying
valuable.
I'm buying one when we hang up here.
All right, sweet.
Good on you, brother. Take
All right,
care.
thanks,
To the
buddy.
audience, I promised you would leave more inspired today. I guarantee you that happened. And do buy the book and enjoy it and pass it on and stay tenacious.
Yes.
See you.
Cheers.